Hello, and welcome to Startup Stories with Scaleway, where we explore cutting-edge startups around the world and how they leverage cloud computing technologies. I am your host, Ethan Pierce. Today's guest is Damian Verhagen, co-founder at DemaTrading.ai, an automated portfolio management platform helping investors to automate, optimize, and share their investment strategies into crypto assets. Welcome, Damian.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. I enjoyed our kind of pre-podcast chat to kind of talk a little bit about it. And I always love when these podcasts get into some of my spaces too. And so obviously crypto assets and everything around the blockchain economy is near and dear to my heart. So I'm super excited to hear what you guys are working on at DemaTrading. Maybe to give our audience some context for the rest of the questions and things we'll talk about. How about a brief elevator pitch of, what you do, the idea about automated trading and bots and all that, just a short intro to kind of give us a better place to start from as we discuss what you're actually doing specifically at DemaTrading.
Sure, happy to. So with DemaTrading.ai, what we want to do is we want to develop a platform that allows people to make their own algorithms. So they're able to develop them with copy and pasting. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. They can hand the algorithms in on our side. We can check them, optimize them. And if they are considered to be well enough, safe enough, we publish them on multiple social trading platforms and on our own platform where we allow investors to invest in multiple bots at the same time. So that allows them to spread risk and to simultaneously run a bot army of traders on their portfolio.
So what always gets me interested when I'm talking to startups about what they're trying to solve and what they're trying to build is kind of what took them to that place. So maybe the backstory of where this idea came from with your co-founders, why you wanted to solve this particular problem.
So I think I have kind of the classic start of how most companies start, which is often I experienced the problem myself. So quite some years ago, I was studying. I wanted to make some extra money as a student. You start looking into different things, and then I got into trading. And initially started with Forex trading by hand, which was nice to do, but I realized it would be easier if I could actually automate the strategy. I would, not be busy anymore looking at charts. It would be automated, more options. You could run at night, pick the best trades. And I had no coding experience. So then I looked at how to do that. I learned how to code, but there's a lot of issues that you walk into, especially when you want to rent out your algorithm, which is my plan, because as a student, I didn't have a lot of funds to trade with myself. So I wanted to rent the algorithm to other people, and you run into issues like on a back test, your algorithm looks good, but does it work on future data? So is it overfitted? You have to code it, run it on a server, connect with APIs. You have liquidity problems, which essentially means that it might be that your strategy works with $1,000 or euros, but it does not work anymore with $100,000 or euros. So there's a lot of things that you run into, and you don't really know how to fix that as a single person doing it on the side. So it would be really nice to have a partner that can help you so that you can just focus on strategy development. And I couldn't really find such a partner, only social trading platforms. And that's actually where the idea came from and how we started this.
So you mentioned in that description, that there's several technological pieces that you need to kind of glue together, whether it's, the actual code that you're writing for the algorithm, where you're putting that in terms of your hosting or server solutions, and then connecting to the APIs, all those different things. Let's talk a little bit about the technology stack that you're leveraging in order to solve all those various problems and glue them together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what we do is we have a backtesting engine, which is made in Python currently, which is open source on GitHub. For those unfamiliar with GitHub, it's basically a Google Docs, but then online for code. So everybody can go to GitHub, search the DemaTrading.ai engine, which is what we call it, and they can actually see the code and download it. They can download the tool with simple instructions according to our wiki, edit everything, run the play button in their editor, and they are able to actually backtest the algorithm. That's on the user side. On our side, we are actually integrating our platform on Skillway. So we have one central, what we call the hub, and we are able to actually spin up every backtest as a separate server instance on the Skillway services. And then we are able to connect every instance separately to the hub. And then the hub is able to broadcast the signals to multiple platforms, to multiple accounts into the world.
So as we look at then this idea of connecting it to my accounts, if I'm using different exchanges, so that I can leverage the technologies of these bots in order to trade better, to trade maybe faster, to trade 24/7. This idea that loaning out the algorithm. Maybe let's talk just a little bit about that idea of why that would matter to somebody who wants to trade, who maybe knows how to trade, but why would they want to leverage someone else's strategy to trade crypto?
Right. So as a trader, there's basically two ways to go about it, right? So the first is to actually automate your own algorithm. So a lot of traders, when trading manually, some of the traders, they just check the charts and the prices a couple of times a day or a week even. The other kind of traders, which you often see at the big firms, they're actually looking at the charts for hours at the time. And a lot of traders want to automate their strategy because there's a different set of rules that they are following, which in some cases is automatable or even able to be optimized even further than what you could possibly do when trading manually. And on the other side, it allows you to run multiple strategies at the same time, lowering the overall risk that you take on your portfolio.
Okay. So like that, I can potentially have some rules that allow me to conservatively grow what I'm doing, but then also have some of my capital dedicated to potentially some more risky approaches to potentially wanting to see the top or the bottom end of that to be larger, so I'm making more money or buying things cheaper as it goes through its volatility, but I'm not risking everything in case it all kind of goes apart there. But okay, well, that's great to know. That's very interesting. And what's interesting here, I think, for a lot of people that might hear about cryptocurrency trading, crypto assets in general, and think that this is all brand new. Like you mentioned, a lot of this just really comes straight out of the Forex space, because the reality is this is, without getting into a debate about what are currencies and are Bitcoin and Ethereum and others actually currencies and what does that mean, but simply in terms of the mechanics that we are talking about, the movement of these things relative to each other or relative to things like the dollar or the euro. And so a lot of that strategy, a lot of that, these decades and decades of experience and knowledge on how to trade currencies can be applied to crypto. So this is not a new space, but you're basically adapting that to this new territory, and it does have some differences that are important to take into account. So that's very interesting to hear what you're building there in terms of how that can potentially help. I'm curious then to maybe, if somebody's hearing this and they want to get started, or obviously if they're already trading and this is something that's interesting to them, they probably understand some of this, but what would you say, or how would you address the potential client who is watching this or listening to this and thinking, well, that sounds very interesting to me. How do I get started? Or does that really apply to me? So who is your perfect potential client, and why should they be interested in this specifically? We can kind of go into your competitors too, but as a first piece, why would I, if I'm listening to this, think, that sounds like that's something I should do?
Yeah. Well, there's different kind of categories in terms of the target market that we have. So there's different kind of people for which we provide different benefits. So what you see is that a part of the traders is already trading fully automated, and they trade that for themselves, and they would actually like to grow further into that, because typically what you see, if you are a full-time trader or someone that has automated everything, you would need a lot of funds to actually be able to make a full out of your own algorithms. So typically people don't have that. They have an algorithm which works well, performs well, but they just don't have the scale of funds to be able to make a living out of that. So in that case, we are able to provide more leverage if we have because we have an investor base. So we are able to actually use their algorithm on a very large amount of funds, allowing them to leverage what they don't have and make a full-time living out of it. On the other hand, there's traders that are doing everything by hand, manually, looking at charts, trading, and for them, we can help them to automate their strategy. It helps them to save time, and a lot of people, they trade everything themselves, but as soon as they go on holiday, or they, for example, if they run everything on their own server, if you go on a holiday and you're away, you still have to make sure that you have uptime on your server, right? Because you are trading for your own funds, maybe for other people as well. If your server is going down, an update is happening, the stuff can always happen. And we run everything for the clients. So they provide the algorithm, we run everything so that they can just go on a holiday mind free. You know, they can take a day off. They don't have to watch their email all the time to be sure that not everything is going down. And also for trading firms, we are able to provide more leverage. We're also developing in-house tools with machine learning, for example, to look at algorithm optimization. So we can also make algorithms safer and more consistent, which is also very important for investors.
So I like that idea that, you know, if someone is already trading a little bit or just getting started, but they have a strategy or they have at least, you know, risk tolerance, kind of an approach they want, that you can formalize that into an algorithm so they have a strategy that's automated that works while they're not there, which is super interesting. But also then, if that's a really good strategy, they can actually then loan that out and other people can leverage it. Or kind of that third group where people can actually then go look at other people's strategies and leverage those for themselves. So you don't have to be a quant at an investment bank being able to imagine this stuff yourself. You can actually look at this. One of the things I thought was interesting when I saw on your LinkedIn page that you guys, there's a thing called the Bot League, which is I guess they look at the performance of leading trading bots in crypto. And
Yep.
I guess it was last month or the month before, you know, you guys had 3 of the top 10 bots, which I
Yep.
thought was a very interesting thing to see. And that's really great because, you know, if you're allowing this to be an automated approach to how you're making money through this trading, then you want to go for the maybe not the highest performing or the lowest performing, because things can kind of move. But if you find that middle space where things are very consistent and that
Mhm.
algorithms are returning consistent positive returns in the space that you want with the risk tolerance that you want, that's really interesting, especially actually if you're just getting started, because you don't have to understand everything, but you're still able to make safe decisions.
Mhm.
So I thought that was interesting that you also then have some external validation already that your bots are doing a good job.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Bots League is organized by one of our competitors. We're also running our own bot competition. But typically, I'm not a very fond fan of running a competition that's only performance driven, because often what you see is that, especially on short periods, the bots that tend to win are the all or nothing bots, right? So typically, it's a high risk going all in, and then you hope for having the right shots and then actually winning something. So running something a bit more long term already reduces the risk of having an all-in kind of algorithm running. But ideally, which is also something we are working on right now, is to have a kind of score which does include the performance of the bot in terms of profit, but also to include in the formula of the score the risk that the bot is taking, so that you can actually weigh different things against each other. Because obviously you want profit, but you also want to have a safe risk profile as an investor.
No, I think that's interesting because when we look at we can see stories of people putting $100 into Bitcoin or some DeFi project and then using some silly amount of leverage and walking away with a couple $1 million.
Exactly.
Those aren't reproducible, and they also don't tell the story of all the people who walked away with a $500,000 bill because they because they used leverage and
Exactly.
lost. And so, you know, I do. That's great to point out that. Again, that's why I maybe highlighted the fact that the middle's maybe a safer place than the top on some of those lists, because sometimes
Yeah.
the whole story is not something that you would actually want to follow, because it's maybe not going to perform that way for you. You also
Yeah.
mentioned that you know, algorithms with trading in forex and in crypto can be very much dependent on the amount of capital that you're putting into place. So, if you're putting $500 or $1,000, it's very different than if you're putting 10, 50, or 100,000 into the same strategy. So I think that's also important for people to understand when they look at this. And so obviously everything that we're talking about here, none of it is financial advice. We're not telling people how to trade or anything, but I
Yeah.
think this is super interesting as a way to inform. It's also a great way to learn because these algorithms can do the work for you. But if you're paying attention, you can learn why they're working, which I think is also a very smart way to, shadowing great investors on the stock market is a great way to learn as well, whether or not you're using actual cash. And so I think that's really interesting to look at that here as well. You mentioned competitors. So I think it's always interesting to kind of look at how companies see themselves differently. What is your value add in terms of, again, if I am listening to this and thinking, wow, that sounds interesting, I should do that. Why should I go to you instead of one of your competitors? What is your value add? What's your difference? What are you bringing to this that you feel is so different that you should be the choice?
So there's a couple of things that we do differently, and all of those combined, we believe, makes us unique. So what we want to do on the algorithm side is to actually, provide people with the tool to build their algorithm in the best way possible. So what you see is that a lot of social platforms, they allow you to trade on their platform, but there's typically not much that helps you to actually develop it. So that's already one thing. Secondly, on the trader side, what we want to do is to check the algorithms, be kind of make a kind of benchmark and help traders to optimize the algorithm. And only if they are checked for optimization and they pass the benchmark, then we want to allow investors to invest in them. So those two are already kind of a unique angle that we have. And then on the investor side, what we want to do, what at least the plan for the next coming months is to allow people to connect one of our partner exchanges so that we don't even own the funds for customers. So we've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable depositing funds somewhere, or they feel comfortable doing that, but would even more comfortable being able to run everything on account. So we connect with their account, and they are able to run multiple bots at the same time so that they can actually move the slider of how much percentage of the funds should be controlled by which bot instead of having one service. And if you basically unlock the advanced mode, which we're going to build, you are able to pick the own bots that you want, right? So there's people that really want to have everything simple. So they will be able to pick a risk appetite, connect their account, and everything will run as intended. People that really want to go crazy on everything, they can unlock the advanced mode, and they are able to see the different bots with the kind of backtesting results that they have, and they can actually slide to make their own kind of unique combination for portfolio management. And the funds are always safe on the broker side, so they don't have to be worried that we might go bankrupt or anything, that they lose the funds or something, because it's all in their own account and they control the money at all times.
I think that's interesting as well because as a company that's based in Europe, based in the Netherlands, then if an American were wanting to use this, there starts to be issues with them putting their money cross-border into Europe and
Exactly.
dealing with that. You start to have regulatory issues, taxation issues, whatever. Whereas
Yeah.
if they can leave it on the exchange they're already using, then their capital doesn't change their exposure in any way, which really opens Dema up to being able to be global in
Yep.
terms of your reach at that point because the capital doesn't have to move. That's pretty cool, and that's really interesting to see because I've seen some of the exchanges kind of want to do this as well with algorithms, but I think it's very interesting that a company that is focusing just on creating the most robust tool set for people to have access to great algorithms. Once you become platform agnostic in terms of whether you're on Binance or Kraken or whatever you might happen to be using as your exchange, then that allows you to compete kind of with everyone versus being tied to the exchanges. I think that's really interesting. That's a great value add to see where that's going. So I guess my this is Startup Stories with Scaleway, and so we're very interested in cloud computing infrastructure. And it's great to have you as a part of the startup program at Scaleway. I'm curious what brings you to join that program, and what specifically in terms of infrastructure needs that you need from a cloud computing provider to help you scale DemaTrading up, and why that then this relationship with Scaleway was interesting for you.
Yeah. So everything that we do is cloud based, especially as well. We're not officially a trading firm because we're a software company, because we don't own any funds, right? We don't trade on behalf of people, but we provide the service for the trading and they own their funds. But we're still in the trading kind of way, deal with uptime, safety, security, a proper infrastructure and architecture that we have to build. In that sense, Scaleway is really helpful for us because they can actually help us to develop the whole infrastructure that we need. So that's really something that we need.
Well, I think that, this is also one of the things we see a lot with companies looking at Scaleway is this privacy by design in terms of GDPR. And so even if you're not actually controlling the trades, the fact that people's information and their data is going through your platform related to their finances and how they're making money, I think it's very interesting to see companies that continue to look towards Europe as a place where they can trust that their information is being treated correctly under privacy rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are quite the odds that at some future point, we might actually take the position of holding the funds as well. Um, a lot of people really like the fact that we are based in the Netherlands, we are in Amsterdam. A lot of people feel, because the compliancy regulations here are quite high, that if we are in the Netherlands and the funds would actually be at our firm, that it would still be one of the safest options that they have, especially with all the regulations becoming tougher and tougher and higher. Um, so it's really interesting to see where the market is moving, obviously because crypto is very dynamic. But in terms of all the tech that we have at Scaleway, it's really nice to have a partner that we can really ramp up the amount of infrastructure and software that we need.
So to that point, then my last question really is just about what's next. What's in the pipeline? What do you guys? I mean, you mentioned a few things already about the advanced mode and some of this stuff about being able to connect even more exchanges and things. But what's coming for you over the next couple months or year that is exciting for us to know about?
Right. So we are soon about to announce that we finished our seed round. So we got seed funding of 150,000 euros in order to kickstart our growth. And we will use the funds to develop the platform. So currently, as I already described before, we have the hub that's already live at the moment, but we still have to develop the dashboard system that allows people to actually connect to their account. We also plan on building an affiliate model for both investors and bot creators, so that people can recommend their friends to start making bots for us, or they can recommend their friends to become an investor. And will basically take a couple of months probably, because there's a lot of security, proper infrastructure that has to be built. So that will be the next couple of months. And on a somewhat longer roadmap, we also want to add margin trading. So with those unfamiliar with margin trading, a lot of the crypto markets right now typically allow you to just buy or sell the crypto assets. Platforms like Binance offer an option to add margin trading, which means that you can also make money on a declining market. So the crypto market as of now has been going down for the last couple of weeks, which often means that you can't trade as much as you would in an upgoing market. So that would be interesting. And next up is also to actually roll out to other markets as well. So that will start with basically other assets rolled into a crypto coin. For example, an Apple coin I heard is existing already. But after that, also to roll out to more adult and professionalized markets, so that we can offer a very global scope of trading services.
Well, hopefully I'll be in Amsterdam at the end of September for the next web. So if we do get to keep physical conferences this fall, which so far there's a bunch that are planned, I look forward maybe to getting to connect with you guys when I come to Amsterdam and hear more good news about what you're doing. Thanks, Damien, for this great explanation of what you are building at DemaTrading. And I wish you all the best in the coming months and year as you do that. Congratulations on the seed money, and more
Thank you.
congratulations to come on what you build with it. So that's fantastic.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Startup Stories with Scaleway. If you are a startup that uses cloud computing resources, be sure to check out Scaleway's startup program at scaleway.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform, and check out all of the previous episodes of the podcast. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.